Hey, good evening, everyone. How's it going? All right, sorry. I thought I would have 2 quick seconds to take a sip of coffee before we went live. All right, let me finish my sip. All right, so as the title implies, I found, just stumbled upon these kind of accidentally. These are ceramic tiles that I picked up at the dollar store at Dollar Tree. So these ones, and actually I think I still have a little wrapper here, the crafter square. Okay, these ones are pretty raw, right? These are not glazed initially, pretty rough. Because they're really, really rough, I did want to be able to draw a grid on them because 90% of everything that I do, I want to be able to have a beginner follow me if they want. And being as raw as they are, I did have to coat them. Now, I don't think you can really even tell this. This side is the original, okay? I actually went ahead and painted these coasters white. I actually did sort of a whitewash on them. I took just a multi-surface white paint, diluted it just ever so slightly, and then washed that on there. In addition to that, I also added one very, very thin coat of the DecoArt, the glaze, the Duraclear gloss varnish. Now, the reason I did both of those things, they're already white. Like I said, you can't tell the difference between the original white color and this. I did that along with the varnish to seal them. Okay, so just to kind of give you some background, like why in the world would you paint them white? They're white already, right? The other part of that is because they're that type of ceramic that has been unglazed. I don't know necessarily that you would call this bisque. I don't know. Not an expert there. But because it was so raw, it's extremely porous and your paint is just gonna soak in there. And I didn't really want that either. I didn't want to risk having it spread in any kind of weird way. So that's why I applied the white paint and then the glaze over it. And then I just used a standard pencil, just a number 2 pencil to put on my grid. Tonight I've already got a pattern in mind. I'm going to recreate possibly something. We're going to go with blues. We are blue tonight. I find it oddly hard to find good color combinations for white. Weird, right? Okay, but I've got my DecoArt paints in front of me as the usual. Tonight we're going to use the Dark Ultra Blue Deep. I've got the Stormy, which is kind of a powdery color, and then as well the Blue Harbor. I've used these 3 same colors before in another one, and again, we're kind of going to be recreating that. Let me get these loaded up in my palette. I'm not going to be adding any medium tonight. The other one that I've got off on the side of the table here, I'll show you. I do also have the Spa Blue, the really light blue. And even though you wouldn't necessarily think originally that these go all that great together because these other ones are sort of darker and dusty, that one makes a beautiful top dot. I also may experiment with this. I've got this ice blue, and I can't remember what in the world I originally even picked this thing up for because it's usually, this is really not a color that I really deal with. The super bright blue might have been something my daughter and I were working on. But I thought, you know, the color, it's not too bad. So I might play around with this a little bit as a top dot, put a little sparkle in there somewhere. Okay, so I've got all of these laid out. The tools, as always, for me are the Happy Dotting Company tools. I've got everything from the 0.5 up to an 8 tonight laid out in front of me. In addition, I don't remember which ones I actually used before, but I do have the stylus here, the nail art tools. This one is a 3, or just the largest one in the set. This one I've also got, which is the 0.5, 1.5. I'm going to be using this one as well, not only just to draw swooshes, but also to make them with the one tool method. Okay, we are done. I am going to attempt to get all 4 done at once. Attempt. You heard that right, attempt. We're going to see how far we get. Okay. I'm going to go straight in with the 8. Do my best to get that centered. Okay. I'm going to also do my best not to try to pull any of these towards me or the Lazy Susan that I'm working on. If I do, I apologize. Somebody stop and yell at me. But even if I do that, I have the hope that I will be able to show you everything with these 4. Oh, where's my... I have a wet cloth on my side here, but it was all the way across the desk. I guess I didn't grab it and pull it far enough. Okay. All right. So I did those 4 with the 8, but I'm not going to lay my 8 down. I'm going to be doing more with this. Okay, we're going to do the flower pattern, but I'm going to change it up just ever so slightly. You might have seen this pattern before. Okay. I have so many ideas for patterns, but I really decided I've just got to stop. I've got to rein myself in. So I'm using a lot of the same patterns again. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to take and go across, and we're going to do a line of 3 dots. See how I want to turn this, because I want to be able to see the dots that I put down. Okay. Okay, so just pick a horizontal line. And one on either side. If you're like me and you're using a flat-headed tool that is the number 8, if you do get anything except a smooth dot on top, if you get any wrinkles, just know that that's either A, because you're pressing the tool down too hard and you're actually touching the surface when you do that, or the other problem might be you just don't have enough paint on your tool. So even though oftentimes you'll see what appears to be enough paint in my wells, but I add more, that's because I always like to have the bottom of the well nice and full so I can really dunk on these big ones. Oops, you know what? I flipped my tool around while I was talking. I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm staying with the 8 again. Okay, I just wipe my tool off just for the sake of cleanliness, just to make sure I get a nice, even, pure dot there. And then we're going to add 2 additional dots here. Those 2 are going to go in the crook of these to start our flower. Okay. And then I'm going to do 2 more. All right. Oops. That did not really pick up enough paint, did it? Okay. And yeah, you're going to get a lot of practice if you're following along, if you want to try this pattern on anything else. I'm doing 4 in a row, so definitely going to get the practice in. Okay. gonna add some more paint already to my well. All right. I realize I do want to change something. All right. Yeah, my apologies. It'll be 2 quick seconds. Maybe. You know, it's always when you're in a hurry and you want to find something that you can't, right? There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. All right. We're back to it. Okay. Sorry about that. Ultra Blue Deep. Like I said, already adding more to my palette because I just want to be able to really get a nice heavy thick there. Okay. We're gonna do some walk dots after this one. All right, let me get that wiped off. I do also really want to be careful with cleaning my tools off with the blue. I find that the blue stains more than anything else, and you can kind of see even in my palette here the remnants of blue paint. All right, so now what I want to do probably is go into 7.5, maybe a 7. I'm going to double check. I'm going to pull out my 7 real quick. Let's do 7.5. I think we have plenty of room. To do a 7.5. Okay. All right. I'm going to just go down a shade here. We're going to go into the mid blue. And this one is the Stormy. This is one of those beautiful colors from Deco Art from the 2024. Okay. So now I'm going to take this Stormy and we're going to put, just like I did there, we're going to put a dot in between each of these. I always think this looks kind of funny when I do it. And honestly, if you have marked out at least just the center point for this, the grid lines are not all necessary. The reason that I like using the grid lines on almost everything just because is because of outward spacing. As you can see here, the dots follow each other, right? So as long as you get that middle dot, the original one set, then you really don't have to worry about the other's placement. But it is really nice to be able, once you come out here farther and maybe you want to use this as a guideline on where you want to put something, that's where it helps. Also, I think it's a nice visual reference for anyone following along, because flat tools and round tools, the round-headed styluses and the clay balls, they're not the same size. A 5 in one is not the same as the 5 in the other. So sometimes I think it's nice that if you're following along, if you don't have the same exact tool set that I do and you're using, say, a stylus for this, that you can still kind of gauge what size you should be using based on how far it lands on the grid, right? Hopefully that made sense. That didn't make as much sense as I thought it did in my head, but okay. Okay, so we're done there. Now let's go into the light blue, and I'm probably, let's see, I think we're probably gonna go, how about a 2.5? Yeah, we're gonna take a 2.5, and I'm just gonna put a dot on the top of each of these that I've just made. You kind of want to line up where these two split. Make sure that you've got the top there. Now this is a lot of blue on blue on blue. And I know you're thinking, well, it's all blending together. And for right now, that's the way it's gonna look, and that's okay. We're gonna do some other stuff later that'll bring all of those out. Looks like little snowflakes at first. Might be a really cute way just to make a snowflake. And as I go through, I feel like I'm a little rushing tonight. A little fast. If there is something that you have a question about, just yell. Okay. Now that was 2.5. I'm gonna go down a full size to a 1.5, and we're gonna do walk dots all the way around. Now with the walk dot, the only difference is essentially we're going to dip this really well, but we're not going to go back in for the other dots. We're just literally going to walk the tool down. Okay. Every couple, I'm going to stop and wipe off my tool. Especially with the small tools, you want to do that more often than not because the paint will build up. Your small, tiny little dots will very quickly turn larger. And yeah, absolutely don't think that you have to use dot art tools or styluses. I have a bunch of ideas for stuff that you can use just around the house if you don't have them. I think I'm pulling it towards me. One's not quite large enough, so I'm going to dip and go back over that one. There. This particular tile right there, there's like a little dent in it. Ironically enough, the Dollar Tree that I visited only had 4 of these, and so I didn't really have a choice. I didn't find these ceramic tiles at any of the other dollar stores that I had been to. I visited 3 that day. This was number 3, and this is the only one that had these. And they only had these 4. Otherwise, I would have picked up a different one because of that like little dent or chip in it. But once I get everything in, it'll probably just disappear into the background. It probably won't even be noticeable, or at least that's what I hope. I did try to fill it in a little bit, but it's still a little small. Okay. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to grab a 3. And let me think about the color here real quick. Normally I would do this white, but obviously we're not going to do that white. Oh, you know what? Let me see here. That one got all smudged. Let me fix that. I think I ran out of Q-tips. All right, hang tight. Okay, sorry. How do do I not have Q-tips on hand right now? I don't know what happened here. I must have just run my finger in it. Let's see if I can fix it. Oh, I bet I did. Look at that. I have a piece here. This is another really, really, really good reason why you coat the top of it with a varnish before you start painting. I'm going to leave that like that. I know that it overlapped a bit, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to come back in later and I will fix that over the top of the initial dot. So let me put a dot over this one just to make sure that there's no blemish in the top of it. There. So if you're working with the ceramic, oh, excuse me. So if you're working with the ceramic tile and you did not use the coat on it, then let me tell you, that would soak in and it'd be just like canvas. You wouldn't get that off of there. You'd be left with a pretty yucky remnant. What I'm gonna do, yeah, I think I need to switch this up. All right, I'm gonna introduce the light blue a lot sooner than I was going to. That's spa blue. Now we're gonna go to a 3, and I'm just gonna put another top dot here, right on top of this one. Okay, well, that's very, very light. We will make it work. When you're in a situation, something I had to kind of learn on my own here, where you have like these really light colors or even really dark ones, something that is going to blend into your background. You don't necessarily have to completely stray away from them, but you do want to make sure that they're surrounded by a darker color in this case, or a much lighter one if you're on a dark background, so that they'll still show up. Okay. And I'm going to take a 2.5 and I'm going to add a 2.5 dot on either side of this one. Again, we're not walking. I'm just putting a dot up against the walk as if I was going to start one, but on either side here. But I'm doing this quite a bit faster than I normally do. Not only just because I have 4 of them to do, but at least I have a pattern already laid out. I know exactly what I'm doing. Usually I pause and kind of take some time and work through what I want to do, what colors I want to put where, and I just don't have to do that right now. So, all right, so that was 2.5. Now I am going for a stylus, if I can find the right one. Okay, let's make sure I do have the right one. I do. Okay, so this for me is a 2.1. I know it's a weird size. If you're using the styluses, this one, I don't think I have anything larger than a 2.1 between the 3. Okay. I labeled these on my own. This is a 2.1. So what I'm going to do, we're going to do some swooshes with the 1 tool. Okay, so you want to load this up pretty good. I don't need it all up the stylus. I just need it covering the head of the ball. And then what we're going to do, let me make sure that I'm not off of the screen here. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, once this is really loaded up, I'm actually going to do the swoosh starting right under here. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that down and gently pull right around. You can definitely be touching the surface while you do this. Just draw like a pencil. Absolute best advice that I can give on how to do these. Just pretend your stylus is a pencil and you're drawing a line down. I discussed this a little bit on my last live stream, but one of the other keys that I don't think anybody ever really talks a whole bunch about when it comes to doing swooshes this way, not only do you have to worry about the consistency of your paint and getting it loaded up and everything correctly, but realistically for these type of swooshes to work, you have to have the right size tool for the right spacing. If you have too small of a tool, you're not going to be able to do the full swoosh. It's going to look funny. It's going to look very, very thin, or it's going to end too soon, and then you're going to have to come back in and drag through it again, which makes it fatter, right? So you don't get a nice comma. You get sort of a weird blob. Same thing if you're using a tool size that is larger than your space. You're going to get more of a blob. It's not going to have the definition that you're going to want. And after all the time that I've done these, all the years already I've been at this, I don't call myself any kind of competent, but you know, one beginner to the next. Yeah, and that's another, if you were wondering why I did the 2 dots above this, that's one of the major reasons too, is because when you're doing the swooshes, and again, I'm using a 2 and I wanted to use a 2 and that's the size that I wanted to do, but if I didn't include the 2 top dots and I was going to go from here all the way down, it would end probably at this line and then I'd be backtracking and then they wouldn't look great. This length is perfect. And that's the other reason too, that when I was really starting on my little journey, I latched on to the 2 tool method and it became like everything. I did everything with 2 tools. No matter if it was a really small or large swoosh, I just did it that way because I got comfortable with that and I didn't have the problems that I was just describing. Like I didn't have the kind of funky lines. I was able to control it much more, and so I latched onto that. And I don't think I've ever seen a video, I don't think I've ever seen anybody on a forum talk about tool size when it comes to making these properly in that way. So it's just something that I had to figure out the hard way. Okay. Now we're going to do another one, but we're going to go into the dark. Get these on here. I honestly don't remember what size I used on the original, so I gotta look. I think it was a 4-5. Yeah, I think it's a 4-5. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take a 4.5 and essentially we're going to do the same thing over. I'm going to start with a dark dot right on top. We're going to go down a whole size to a 3-5. Again, same thing. We're going to put a dot on either side. I have to add some more paint to my palette here. Kind of moving this around just a little bit so I can kind of get a better view where I'm laying these. I really don't want to accidentally overlap them. Oh, no. Knew I was about to miss one. Make sure that I got them all. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the 3, but we're back into the stylus. Now we're going to do exactly the same here. I'm going to try to go down as far as I can with this, but again, I need to add some more paint in here. Looks like I've got a lot, but I really don't. Okay. All right, let's get on these ones. This is the one that I really like putting on the most on this pattern because it really frames the flower. Doesn't really matter what colors you're using, but I highly suggest the darkest color that you're working with to be this one here. Just for that reason. There was a clump of paint. Must have been a little bit of dried on the lid or something. Fell in there. Get my tool wiped off real quick. I'm gonna take a drink of coffee in a second. There we go. Like I said, if you use the stylus literally just like a pencil, like you're drawing, it works much easier. And so just find a comfortable position for you to use it like a pencil. Oh boy, oops. That's gonna be much thicker than I want. See what I meant by that? The one that I did, my hand kind of slipped, and so it sort of went, oop. And I tried to go back over it, and now all of a sudden I've just got a flat, funky line. That's what Q-tips are for. Okay. I've said it before, don't be stingy with your Q-tips either. Now, hopefully as I'm going through here, you can see what I meant earlier about the colors, right? Because that light blue was hardly noticeable. Although it's still very light, you can see it now. This dark frame around it makes it stand out. I'm gonna try to fix that. There. I was lucky with that. Last one. I could swear for the first full entire year that I did this, I didn't use swooshes at all. Hated them. Bane of my existence. Absolutely hated them. And I kept looking for work that just didn't include them, or I would make my own just without them. I hated them so much. Now that I finally figured it out, I got brave enough, I practiced enough, I experimented on my own, just trying to figure things out. Now I really like them. I basically add them to everything now. And not only do I add them to everything, I use the stylus. Like I said before, I just refused to use the stylus for a very long time too, because I just didn't understand what I was doing wrong. So hopefully anybody that's watching this, if you're having a problem, I really hope that helps. I've been thinking already for a while now, I need to update my swoosh video that I did. It's already been 2 years, maybe even more, that I put that thing out. And I've learned a lot since then, a lot that I think would benefit people. So I really want to do that over again. All right, More swooshes incoming, sorry. The original that I'm going to take this from was a much larger piece. So I don't think I'm going to have the room that I did on that one. Matter of fact, I know I'm not. So I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. So we're going to go into a 6, and let's go into the medium blue. And I'm going to go for a 2-tool method, just as I talk about that, okay? So I'm going to go into the 6, and I'm going to put a dot. See, this is where I was talking about the guidelines are helpful here. Because I'm going to use this outer edge mostly as a guideline as to where I put this dot. Okay. First dot that I drop, I know I'm already going to have a little extra paint, so I dipped that. I need more than a little extra. All right, so I'll explain what I'm doing just in case somebody's popping along here and is not sure. So once the dot is down, again, I'm not cleaning off either one of my tools for any of these. I'm going to take from the top of the dot, I'm going to go all the way through the dot and then continue down. Right, I'm just literally pushing down into the surface, not enough to make a line, but just to grab the paint and pull it straight down. Along the midline, just imagine that there is a line right across the middle here. I'm just going to take that midline and then I'm going to pull it down. Take the midline and we'll pull it down. Now that just creates just the outer lines and then color it in. There are going to be situations where you will actually see lines through your paint. You can actually see where the paint has been dragged around. That simply means that you don't have enough paint on your tools, on your surface, or you're really pressing too hard. On something like these ceramic that are smooth, now that I've coated them, and other smooth surfaces like glass, you're not going to see that as much. Almost never. But on things like canvas, it's a really, really good example. Almost always, you're going to have to use a lot of paint. Okay, so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just to layer it on there. That's one of the reasons that I love smooth surfaces like acrylic, glass, ceramic, to do practice on for swooshes in the beginning. You just don't have all those issues. Gives you lots of confidence. I'm moving these around. Don't mean to be. And again, as you can see, the grid lines, although they're there, none of this is on the grid. I sort of hope it helps somebody that's looking at this. And, you know, just trying to recreate it, maybe with the different size tools or something. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother me that they're there, even though I'm not following them. I don't really pay any attention to them. If anybody does stop by and has made a firm decision, yes, they do, or no, they don't help, let me know. Just out of pure curiosity. Did they help you? Did they confuse you? Because if they're confusing, because I could see how that they're a little confusing since I'm not actually following them, I'll just stop using them. As you can see, especially for something like this pattern, I don't need them. You really don't either. If you're following along, and you get that first one in place correctly, you're good to go. Just keep everything nice and tight. And what I mean by that is like the original circles, as long as there's not a whole bunch of space in between them, everything else will fall in line on its own. Oh, I thought this was the last one there for a moment. So I have a whole nother coaster to do. It's kind of fun just pushing paint around, so. Running out of paint in my palette, so see how far I can get here. That's why these ones I'm going over a few more times, if you haven't noticed already. Now we're on the last swoosh of the last coaster here. Okay, barely enough paint on there. All right, let's get this all wiped up. I'm not letting anyone off the hook with swooshes because we're gonna do more though. Let me just take a look and see what size I want to do here. Probably just going to do this one. Okay, we're going to go into the lighter blue. Okay. I'm going back into this tool, but I'm not using the 0.5 end that I used to pull these with. I'm using the other side, which for me is a 1.5. Okay. This one is a little squished, as you can tell. This one just got moved in a little. So this one I'm gonna a little more delicate with. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm doing the exact same thing as I was on the darker ones, except you know that midline that I was talking about on the dot that I pulled the swoosh from? So I pulled it down here and then I pulled it down here. That same midline is where I'm starting this swoosh. Okay, so I'm just putting that down in the midline and then I'm following the swoosh down. Tiny bit of a curve if I can get a curve in there. If it's kind of a straight line, that's okay too. I'm sort of aiming for that, where the bottom kind of flares ever so slightly. That first one was terrible, I admit. I'm gonna try that again, I think. Let me try this one. I don't think there's much I can do about the other side. So I'm going to leave that one. Not much better. Okay. It is what it is. Holy moly. It's time to wipe my tool off. Did you see how fat that was? That was not a good looking anything. All right. Playing around with the size there. I keep pushing these off, don't I? I did that one in the wrong color. Oops. On this one, I'm actually going back in real quick and just covering up. There were a few lines in here that I didn't see. There. Phew. All right. In the original, I had room for another swoosh or two, but I do not with this one, so I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, now we probably want something here. And I'm going to switch it up from the original because I don't really like what I did with the original. And I think I'm just going to go with something more simplistic, and that's just going to be a crown. Let's go dark. Probably thinking a 3, wherever my 3 is. Yeah, okay. All right. So I'm going to come in here with a 3. As far as what a crown is, that's essentially the 3 dots stacked on top of each other, like a little pyramid. Okay. So I'm going to put 1 dot here, 1 there, and then 1 on top. And these can be very, very close. I just don't want them bleeding into one another. But they can be pretty darn close. And then we're going to brighten this up with some of that lighter blue. As I'm going through here, I think I actually may want to go ahead and just add silver on top of this. I probably would normally go white, but I think the silver would be a nice touch. Just get a little bit of sparkle in here on top, because I know it is dark, and I know it's at a certain point, all the colors are gonna look almost like they're just blending together. And I don't want that, but I do want the nice dark base. So there's not a whole lot of room left on the outer edge either. So as I sit here and do these crowns, I'm taking a look at the original. Just trying to see if I want to do exactly the same thing as the original or try to maybe extend it out a little farther with something completely different. Whatever I do, it's just got to be the same on all 4 of these. It doesn't have to match my original. Oops. If I was painting with a brush, I wouldn't need any more paint, but I always use the deepest part of the well and just continue dipping from that deepest part just to make sure that my paint is always evenly coating the top of the tool. So, and that's another reason why I don't put a ton in at a time anyways, because then I really am just wasting paint. Albeit this is not expensive stuff, but still. Right. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oops, I want that one a little closer. And then since these are going to be used as coasters, once I get finished with this, I'm just gonna take a super, well, how do I want to put this? I want to take a wet rag and wipe over the top of this to get the lines off. You just want to make sure that whatever you wipe it with isn't going to be too wet. It just barely wet. The paint's not going to come off. As long as you give it enough time, it's not going to wipe off. Once that's done, it's all nice and clean. I'm going to go through it again, make 100% sure that there's not any weird spaces, maybe a dot that might look a little see-through, like that one dot wherever it is. I don't even see it right offhand now. The one that I had that had a little bit of overlap that I corrected on. Just kind of do those little touch-ups. And then I'm going to resin it. And then I'm going to put a nice coat of resin on it. It's the best thing that I have that's going to make it look beautiful and then be heat resistant enough to actually function as a real coaster. All right. Now then, on the original, I actually had another set of walked dots, very similar to this, up here. And I'm just not going to have enough room to do that. It's going to come way out here to the edge. And I don't want to do that. I'm just kind of thinking what I do want to put there. I could put another crown here. I don't even know if I want to do that. I could just put a single set of dots though. Let me go to a 3-5. Let's go into the lighter blue. Let's at least put one dot here. And then I can put two much smaller ones on either side just to give this more of a finish. Oof. There. Oh my God, I have blue on my hands everywhere, don't I? Gotta be careful. I don't want to accidentally drag any of that blue somewhere where it's not supposed to be. I wouldn't honestly be surprised if once I'm done, I look at the outside edges where I'm turning it right now, and there's blue on there. But yeah, we're almost done. Do I even want to put a dot on either side here? Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so I picked a 1.5. I'm just going to quickly, or try to quickly get these on. Then we're going to top dot, and then we're done. I suppose nothing about this is really super quick, but and even though these are pretty small dots, I'm doing my best to continue to redip after each dot instead of doing a walk, because if I try that, unless I have enough paint on my tool, it's going to be a noticeable size difference. Oops. I got carried away. Got overly hurried. And as you can tell, this is just a wet Q-tip. And these lines, look at that. There. And these little pencil lines come off pretty easily. It's not like I'm scrubbing or anything. I'm just wiping that off. And again, that is because I sealed it. Do not try that if you haven't sealed these coasters first. Because if you even try to mark on them with anything, the porous surface of the original is unforgiving. And you will never get it off. You'll never get it off. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna go to the center. I want to, let's see. I'm gonna go to a 5. We're gonna go to the mid blue, which I need a little tiny bit more in my palette. That wasn't the mid blue. Whoops. Okay. All right, mid blue. I'm going to place this dot. This is a 5 again. This is going to go down at the bottom of each of the dots around here. Okay. Nothing too crazy yet. And I want at the bottom so that it's all kind of pointing inward. So purposely not going center. Okay. I'm going to go down to a 4. And I'm going to go into this spa blue now. And I'm going to get a dot, same position on the ones above it. Oops. There. That did not want to snap back in place properly. There. We're going to do another layer on top of the ones in the middle, but not yet. For now. Okay, I'm going to go into a 1.5 and we're going to continue with this light blue. And I'm just going to do a quick little dot on these three. Okay. Now for this, I'm perfectly fine walking. Now, as you can see what I'm doing here, or maybe you can't. On the triangles, I'm putting the dots in the center, same as I did down here on the bottom of the dot, but I'm putting them together like two eyes, right? And then a bottom here. So they're all touching essentially. You know, and at this point, I can totally skip the silver. I'm still deciding if I want to or not. In the original, I used white, and the white really brought that extra pop of kind of contrast and brought out the dark blues. But since my background here is white, I know I don't want to use white. I just don't know if it's really necessary. Because the only places that I think I would really put it is going to be in the center, because I usually don't do another dot, a third one, on the second row. So looking at a 3 at this point. And I'm doing a dot on top of a dot on top of a dot. So please make 100% sure before you do this that each of your layers is dry. If not, no matter how great of a technique you have, your dot will come out funny shaped. It will not stay round. The paint underneath it is wet. It's just gonna go all blobby. The other thing that I personally don't do is put another dot in the middle. Personal preference. I just don't. Okay, I like just that dark center. If you don't and you want to put another set of dot or 2 dots, just like the surrounding maybe on it, go for it. I don't think that necessarily looks terrible. You know, just like I said, just total personal preference on that. Okay. All right, so I think those are done. I'm gonna take, like I said, another quick look. Oh, and I do see something that I want to fix here. This swoosh, oops, wrong tool. This was the medium blue. Looks like I've got a line or 2 in it, so I'm just going to take and touch that up. Okay. Real quick, make sure that I don't have anything else. Sometimes while you're doing this, and you get so involved in it, and you're so up close, it's super easy to miss little mistakes, little issues. So especially on swooshes, just like this, just like what I'm doing. If I had scratched a little bit, sometimes it's not even noticeable under the really bright light. So taking a second and backing away is good. And let's look for the dot that was over. This one. That was a medium blue too. There. Fixed. That was fast, right? Okay. I think we're good to go. All right. Now, like I said, I'm going to take and do this with a cloth. I usually would just grab this cloth, but this one is an absolute mess tonight. And all you really need to do, as long as it's sealed, take a little wet cloth, wet something. Oops. And you can go in and get all these lines off. Once this is dry, the cloth will just rub right over it, a whole thing. You don't have to sit and go in between each of these like this, you know, and try to get stuff off. Just wipe the whole thing. Okay, all right, but like I said, I think that is it for this one. The image at least for the live that I am showing right now, it is based on this coaster that I did a while ago. Obviously a little bit different. The center is the same. Slightly different colors. I incorporated the white in a different spot, but hopefully you guys like it. I will go ahead and get these cleaned up. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get them cleaned up, and then probably the following day, or maybe even this weekend, I'm going to take in resin these 4 plus the original, and we'll get them ready to go. Yeah, so they'll actually be heat tolerant so that I can actually safely use them for a nice cup of hot coffee or tea. Okay. But thank you so much for anyone that dropped by. I certainly do appreciate it. Check back. I will be doing a few more of these. I still have a ton of stuff for the craft show to get ready. Again, that craft show for me is going to be on the 2nd of November. So that's creeping up really quickly. Really, really quickly. A little faster than I anticipated. So I've got a lot to do still, and I might as well just do it live, right? You guys can hang out with me and check it out while I do it. Check the community tab. I've got a couple of questions out there. I've got a couple of different things going on. So we'll catch you guys later. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Have a fantastic day. Bye.